Orpheus loses Eurydice twice. First, to the life she was meant to live, and then slowly to memory itself. Welcome, dear listener, to Tale Oft Told, the podcast that is fighting the urge to go online and creep a past unrequited love, even though the curiosity is killing us. Before we begin, it's important that we understand. And to understand means we make the descent. You know the one. That descent into the underworld of despair, uncertainty, and loss. Okay, The Notebook is a film released in 2004 and was directed by Nick Cassavetes. And I would say the movie has an all-star cast, but you could also say that this movie helped cement its cast as all-stars. It all started with a struggling author who was working as a pharmaceutical salesman full-time. His name was Nicholas Sparks. He was inspired by the story of the grandparents of his wife, Kathy, who had been married for 60 years. And from their love story came The Notebook. Like many artists, Sparks was nearly discarded entirely before a literary agent discovered the manuscript of The Notebook, basically buried in a slush pile. So the novel gets published in 1996, becoming an immediate bestseller, and they secured a $1 million advance with Warner Brothers to option it as a movie. It was potentially offered to Spielberg, among other famous directors, to be directed, but the project finally landed into the hands of Nick Cassavetes. Also, a staggering number of actresses auditioned for the role of Allie, and that includes Britney Spears, Scarlett Johansson, Jessica Biel, Reese Witherspoon, many others. And of all those names I just mentioned, you might be surprised to hear that it came down to choosing between Britney Spears and Rachel McAdams. As we all know now, they ended up going with Rachel McAdams. And according to Britney Spears' memoir, The Woman in Me, she herself actually expressed relief at not getting the part. She really didn't like the idea of having to play the part of Allie. And believe it or not, for the role of Noah, at one point, George Clooney was slated to play it, along with having Paul Newman play the older counterpart. And then it didn't work out. Because Cassavetes ultimately wanted to go with a lesser-known actor to help with the element of playing a lower-class outsider. And so he ended up choosing a lesser-name actor, and that was Ryan Gosling, who we all know now is anything but a lesser-known name. How does this movie follow the story of Orpheus and Eurydice? Let's take a look. At the very beginning of the movie, we meet Duke, who's played by James Garner. And he's reading a love story from a notebook to a woman in hospice care, and she's played by Gina Rowlands. But he's not just reading her a story from a notebook. Rather, we get the impression that he's doing this as a form of ritual. A ritual against oblivion, you might say. And as he tells her this story, we cut to a young Noah meeting a young Allie at a carnival in Charleston, South Carolina. They fall in love, they spend time together, they make love to each other in this dilapidated house. And there's more on this house later. So Noah, who's played by Ryan Gosling, is clearly our Orpheus. And he's a humble mill worker who resides among the lower echelons of the southern class of society. And then we have Allie, played by Rachel McAdams, and she is our Eurydice, and she's this precocious girl from an upstanding Southern family. So Allie, being from a genteel Southern family, must go off to college, and so she ends up leaving Noah for several years. And it's there in college where she meets and is engaged to marry the son of another genteel Southern family. His name is Lon. But while she's away during that time, Noah hasn't forgotten her. He ends up writing her letters every single day, and every single one of them are intercepted by her disapproving parents. The world had already decided where people like Noah and Allie belonged. Just as Orpheus has the gift of playing the lyre, Noah has the gift of woodworking. He ends up using those skills to purchasing the old plantation home, the one in which he and Allie first made love, and he ends up using his carpentry skills to restore it to its former glory. And in doing so, he's publicly recognized for it. In being recognized for it, Allie sees the recognition, and she ends up running back to him. And so while there are some drama and trifles and a love triangle between her and her fiancé, ultimately, the love between Rachel and Noah wins, and they get to be together. So you could say Orpheus gets the girl. Or does he? Because as they age, now Eurydice is in hospice care with some form of degenerative memory issue. Memory loss is Hades' underworld. So here we have our reveal. The Duke in the hospital is an elder Noah. The woman to whom he's reading the love story from the notebook is an elder Allie. After he tells her the entire story, she, almost as if a miracle, awakens from her dementia. And for a brief second, she remembers it all. And they can be together again, Noah and Rachel, as old star-crossed lovers like they once were. But this is all that Noah gets, as she ends up succumbing once again to her dementia. Similar to when Orpheus walks down the hall from Hades and tries not to look back. So they both lie down in the end, and they end up dying together, holding hands. It ends quietly, in a dismal, underwhelming modern hospital bedroom. Duke is quoted as saying, "I am no one special. Just a common man with common thoughts. I have led a common life. There are no monuments dedicated to me, and my name will soon be forgotten. But in one respect I have succeeded as gloriously as anyone who ever lived. I've loved another with all my heart and soul. And for me, that has always been enough." So our Orpheus, Noah, had to go through two underworlds of sorts. The first being the rigid class structure of society and Allie's disapproving parents, and the second being the heartbreak of memory loss. Caregivers for those who have Alzheimer's can all attest to the trauma incurred at seeing their loved ones suddenly unable to recognize them back. And then there's the reality of hospice care, where once lively, young, and vibrant humans who danced, fought wars, loved deeply, are now bedbound and often medicated. Despite the beautiful fictionality of the fiery love romance between Noah and Allie, Sparks couldn't have chosen a truer-to-life underworld, one that could ultimately affect us all. One of the qualities of an Orphic movie, of course, is that it often leaves you thinking about it long after you've seen it. This movie has amazing staying power. It cemented the all-star career of Ryan Gosling, and it helped Rachel McAdams go from being Mean Girl to America's ultimate sweetheart. Also, the movie and the book have an extremely symbiotic relationship. The cover of the book's most mass-produced editions even featured Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling on the cover. There's also been an interesting debate that's arisen about the Notebook. Younger audiences, particularly from younger millennials to Gen Z, have taken note that the love between Noah and Allie appears to be toxic. In many scenes, Noah can come across as coercive and bullyish towards Allie. For example, there's the beginning scene when he interrupts Allie's date and he climbs onto a Ferris wheel and he threatens to jump if she does not agree to go out with him. Then Allie basically leaves Noah to pursue her career and pursue a relationship with another man. It could be said that Noah deserves better. But let's start from zero. In 2004, and all the years before, there wasn't necessarily a global discourse on healthy love. There were some experts, but their messages weren't necessarily getting out. We didn't have Esther Perel. We didn't have YouTube videos that clearly spelled out the red flags of narcissistic entrapment and toxic codependency. We didn't really get good advice from our elders because, well, they weren't aware of healthy psychology either. So we basically stumbled around making mistake after mistake until we became all the more wiser, provided that the love didn't kill us in the process. But this begs the question, is Orphic love toxic? Was the love between Orpheus and Eurydice codependent? Well, it's a myth, so there's really no way of telling. But one common theme in Orphic stories is that this is the first love. So think about those two young lovers in high school who can't bear to separate from each other to the point that they're always late to class. This is their first love, their first time entering into a real relationship. They don't know whether their love is supporting or damaging each other, and at some moments, it might be doing both at the same time. It's funny because in a weird parallel, Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams actually encountered severe friction when they first started filming The Notebook. It was so bad, Gosling wanted McAdams replaced. But they worked out their differences and ended up having an amazing on-screen chemistry that even actually turned into a relationship between the two for 2 years afterwards. And that's just it. With true romantic love comes intensity and passion. The feelings might feel so strong it can be unbearable. With the intensity, there's a tendency to cross boundaries. And if the flame burns too hot, then it can burn everything down. And how far can love go before it inevitably turns into grief? If you're in a position to find yourself in your 40s and dating, suddenly you're really looking for boring things like compatibility. You value consistency over intensity. We'll take that beautiful flicker of a candle any day over the constant risk of being engulfed in flames. But we never truly forget the feeling of that first burning love in our life, do we? To be fair to Noah and Allie, what they do have is a clear approach towards healthy conflict. They fight a lot. There's one particular moment in the movie when Noah says, "That's what we do. We fight. You tell me when I'm being an arrogant son of a bitch, and I tell you when you are a pain in the ass." And so, despite all their challenges, in the Notebook, Orpheus and Eurydice end up very much intentionally choosing each other, and they stay together. And for the elder Noah and elder Allie in hospice, the Notebook itself becomes a kind of sacred object, a ritual against forgetting. Every time Noah reads it, he descends into the underworld, hoping to bring Eurydice back one more time. We get to watch that love endure, even as it inevitably ages. We see it reach its final end when, as the elderly partners, both dying together, paradoxically losing and reunite with each other once again. And perhaps it's in that paradox where Orphic love burns brightest. to love someone fully, even while losing them. A quick thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you so much if you download us. Unlike a lot of other podcasts, this podcast doesn't need any form of external validation. In fact, we just choose to remain here in the underworld, just languishing. That's just our style. But it is time to let you know what the featured film for next episode will be. And for this episode, we're going to dive into 1990s Mexican cinema. And we're going to look at Mirac Alley, also known as Callejón de los Milagros. We'll see you then, and thanks again.